So it's fishing the hoods with the Urban Dragon and that, and you can always get some hot fishing tips from the Leopard Scott. And I just do Temu and dollar store testing, bring out old rods from the 1960s, 70s, 80s, different eras, right? Versus some of these other ones, right? I do a lot of strange testing, any kind of sorts of baits you can think of, a lot of different rods and reels from Temu and that sort of thing, some dollar store sorts of baits and different ones, and show you that you can still catch monsters with low budget stuff here, right? And that sort of thing like that. It's all multi species. I had everything from giant muskies to giant bass, right? And carp and many others, right? So, well, I cover different things, throughout the series, all kinds of different patterns, different things you can get from Temu or dollar store and that sort of stuff, or yeah, any kind of five and dime like sort of plays, right? Like any of this sort of thing, right? So, anyways, stay tuned, click like and subscribe, and you'll learn a lot here. I've been doing this since the 1960s around the clock, so a long time, and studied from all the original guys from Buck Perry spoon plugging to the Tony Portancassos, the Lenders when they came along, and all the gang, right? So, so sort of thing. And I practice everything that every single human of these people would put in print. I'd try it every day and try different things and realize there was a lot of anomalies and things that they'd say, right? So you'll see things that I do that are a bit outside the box, especially a lot of my muskie hunting and things like that. They're very different than typical anglers that'll do, right? And that sort of stuff like that. So and same with carp and different ones, right? Because I lived on waters all my life, right beside it. I could fish around the clock, and even people that could ever do this, they were maybe stuck in one stream every weekend. I was taken to go to big tournaments all over the place with adults because they knew I could destroy people. Right? So they wanted in on the cash, right? So we'd split on this sort of stuff, right? And certain thing like that. So I've been fishing like this, like around the clock since a tiny child, right? And I had some operations and messed up. I couldn't even walk, and I've crawled out of this and casting now, like just like any super professional and that sort of thing, and fighting the fish, right? So, anyways, we'll continue on part two of the pond there, and then we might not even make it to part three. In another pond, we'll do a little bit of fly fishing and different things like that. On this show, I show you some actual pictures better of some of the things I was using and that sort of thing like that, and I cover some more fast action. I modify a fly rod. I using an old GW there. Sometimes I like this old rod. I slayed a lot of fish with it. It's a telescopic, about 11 and a half feet long, very similar to a typical carp rod, and about a pound and a half test curve, somewhere in that sort of range. And this thing can handle very light line to quite heavy line with no issues, right? So it's very, high level that way that you can get away with a lot of different things and it performs well, right? So one of my favorite telescopics of all times there, right? And that sort of thing like that. So I use it everything from boat rigging to different things, right? So you can certainly get away with it. And that sort of thing like that. So, and I show you some of the floats and the different things I was using and the basic patterns of that. And then on the third show, we'll have some more different sort of stuff. I'll show you testing some different sort of things like a rod pod and some other sorts of ones, right? So that like that. So you never know, on every show it's going to be different. So anyways, hopefully you enjoy. So this guy's going through the hills here. Some were from the morning and afternoon. I didn't mix them correctly, probably, but anyways, I mean, yeah. If you see me in shorts, it's more in the after. If you see me in the shoes and that, it's because it's early yet, right? But it's very entertaining, these ponds. They can be a real laugh and that sort of thing like that. And lots of fish sometimes and that sort of thing like that. But I only do this so many times, and then usually I like hunting monsters more, right? So, of course, you get lesser fish because there's less of them available and that sort of thing like that. But they're a lot of fun. I mean, sometimes they'll scoot all across the pond, all kinds of things like that. It was a funny day with rain, and then it was like completely dead still, and a little bit of chop and everything, right? But a fair amount of fish had already came in such a short period of time. Some years it's not like that; it's not as many, right? It takes longer. It all depends on how cool or warm it fast, like how fast it's warm or cold out, right? Like that spring, and that sort of thing like that. They got some garbage here as usual. Somebody's beeping me. We're trying to record this. Sadly, this conversion didn't work right, so I have to record over this and talk and stuff like that because it's like something happened to it where it didn't work out correctly and that sort of thing like that. So. But anyways, I just want to. I'll probably cut this off for this show, and then we'll have to, continue on, right? Because there's a lot of fish, right, and that sort of thing like that. And this is slow fishing to me. I mean, in old historic times, like I said, sometimes I could catch over 100 in one day, right? I mean, that's astonishing carp fishing anywhere on this planet, right? Sort of thing like that. But I'd force them in a little bit quicker and that sort of thing, a little bit heavier line. Wasn't goofing around. I was just trying to get numbers, right? And that sort of thing like that. But I enjoy scrapping with them. It's cool so they don't get too exhausted and then you let them go and they'll go back and doing their thing and eventually spawn and what have you. I've released many of the same ones. I see them the next year, right? Caught them with something different and that sort of thing like that. So, oh, there's another one in. Yay. We'll have to get rid of these weeds and that. So, anyways, stay tuned. The show will continue and we'll cover some more tips on the next one. So, folks, we're into one here in a giant rainstorm, and this dude, too bad we missed a lot on film. This guy was way across the other side of the pond, but it's finally starting to tire out. This is old line, 2-year-old line, only 4-pound test line. So, as you can imagine, I can't do anything. One mistake and it's all over, right? And I don't want the fish to be harmed or anything like that, but I've been doing this since a tiny child, reeling in gigantic fish on very light line. My early inspiration was like Lefty Cray and ones like that sort of dudes. And so I love doing this sort of thing, but it seems that maybe this might clear up here. We might get lucky. It's sunny over there. But I can't get this fish anyway. It's a wild trail.
And this is like weeds all over it already. There's weeds growing in here this fast. Every year it's getting worse. So let's see if we can get her up on the surface. You can see a pile of weeds there, but oh, there she is. Yeah, you can see the big wave up at the top. There we go. She's splashing a bit. So we'll have to shut off the camera again eventually because I can't sort of. I have very little film left, and I'd rather get them sort of, But anyways, we'll have her landed here in no time. Oh, she still wants to scrap away. Oh, you missed some incredible runs. It's an awful shape. Great stuff. But don't panic. That's the main thing. And believe this or not, I'm actually fighting the fish with one pinky. And boy, does that hurt. But this is the only way I can keep this camera sort of stable here, right? Okay, so she's starting to tire out. Boy, there's a lot of weeds on this, man. Any little thing and it's all over here. Oh, oh, calm down there, girl. We don't want her near that thing out there in the middle there. The rock statue there. I'm not sure if it's one of those native ones somebody put or whatever it is, but anyways, it looks like one of the typical native ones would use. And it's like a important thing. Oh, so not a bad fish. Nice fatty. No monsters what I'm used to normally hunting, but in the spring here in the small ponds it's fun. I don't mind hunting for smaller ones. But boy, is she ever putting up a beast of a fight here. It was freezing this morning. We had pants on. Now I got shorts. Now I'm being rained on and being soaking wet, hit to death. The camera's in bad shape here. It's cracked. I just want to tire her out enough so we can get her sort of, and then I'm going to hand land her. And then, but I don't take them out of the water in this tiny, tiny little hooks I'm using. So, there we go, folks. She's finally tired out here. Nice fatty pie. And I'll have to shut off the camera again here in a second. I'm running out of film. My goodness, this thing refuses to calm down and just get this deal over with. Occasionally you get one of these nut bars there. It's just wild. Anyway, so hopefully she'll tire out here eventually some hour or two.
Many other kinds of hooks that I use, but these ones have passed here. This heresy. Uh, they're similar to between like a salmon and bait holder hook. They hook well. They're slightly forged, and that these ones here you get like a box 100, 200, 500 different ones, and this particular one was size 3 to 12. You might want some a little bit smaller and a bit bigger than that, but that'll cover a lot of the different sort of things like that. Salmon hooks. Salmon egg hooks are excellent, excellent, and then you can use them in a variety of sizes, the same thing, sort of thing like that. Uh, these you can make. I've been doing since I was a kid, putting sometimes a spring on just the hook, right, like from a pen, and then wrapping it around like that. But they're commercially made too, right, and that sort of thing like that. So when you put the dough ball around it, it'll help hold it a little bit better and that sort of thing. And here, as I was trying to show you, is on the other film, traditional hair rig here, and what I was getting at is that if you notice the trace material that they're using is quite thick. So unless you have like a couple of boilies and that where the carp isn't able to get in any section of that line, he's just feeling boily or particle baits boily, whatever combination, right, where you got this pretty good covered, then you have a better shot at it. But when they don't, right, and you, let's say you have just the one boilie, and then there's this hair leg there, when that guy goes around it, he'll feel it on the other side, right? Sometimes and they'll spin it. I've watched them doing it, right? So these really aren't a hair rig in that sense, right? Like, because the material you're using is completely defeating the purpose of what the hair rig was for, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, but the presentation still works a lot of times, right? And that sort of thing like that. But because we're not doing like bolt rigs and that, I'll cover that, the sinkers and how to make some cheap ones that are pretty well snag proof and that. And I don't like them as well because if that carp busts loose, it could cause damage, him having to drag that around and all kinds of different things, right? And you have all this extra lead in the bottom of your river or lake or what have you, right? And that sort of thing like that. But anyways, we'll continue on with some more fish here. We're back to the fly rod here. Another smaller Scooby. They can give you quite the scrap. Sort of thing like that. It's a lot of fun. We'll get this one here going soon. Oh, it's nice to be outside. So finally spring's here and that sort of thing like that. It's torturous for me in the winter. I don't do like the ice fishing I used to and that sort of thing. So, I mean, it's just totally takes longer, right, for me to sort of, before I'd be out ice fishing like 4 or 5 times a week, right, and that sort of thing. But now that I moved in a different area and stuff like that, it's harder to do some of these things. And the cold bothers me way more, right? So I prefer it in the summer now. So, anyways, we'll be having to let this one go. It's just I don't have time, like I said, to keep like like showing all this or this stuff. It's just way easier to sort of, you know. So, anyways, we'll take a fish break here. Oh, I did a drawing of these, and I just wanted to give you a little bit better idea what to look for here. This is the kind here that we want here. They're hollow plastic, sort of, Q-tip knockoff stuff that you'll find in many dollar stores and that. And you can make them longer or shorter. You can cut it just simply with a pair of scissors, and they're hollow inside. Okay, and that and I had already showed you the little slip beads there from Temu and different places. And they're really easy. You just slide your line through the wire loop, and then you push up the little bobber stop, and it will actually lock onto your line. And then you can adjust it to the depth that you want. Then for the to help it float better and things like that, go to any dollar stores or any place that sells crafts, any kinds of things like that. And what you want is small beads of a variety of sizes. Like this pack here had a bunch of smaller, different rounded ones. Some were more oval, which is what more typically you want. The less resistance there is, the better. But the carp might not feel it as much, and that sort of thing. If you use like traditional, like a big red and white bobber, there, you're going to lose almost everything. They're not going to pull that down unless the fish is nuts and he snags himself when he makes a run. This is an old trick to use with a bolt rigs as well. Some people have done this where you have your bolt rig, and then for an extra sort of thing, you slide up a bobber, like let's say another couple of feet and that sort of thing. And then when the guy's running, then that extra, bobber there being ripped down also then helps it, snag into his mouth even better, right? And that sort of thing like that. So it's an old trick, but it works, right? Like a little sometimes, right? And that sort of thing. But you want them, you got to make sure they're hollow, or at least have some little hand drill. You could even use pieces of cork, like I said, or balsa wood. These ones here have been, I use a lot of shish kebab like floats or different ones, things like this. These ones here are great because the pegs are all wooden, so it's all natural. It's not going to pollute anything, and you easily can fix this. You see these tiny little elastics you can buy in the dollar stores and different things like that. You can also make weedless jigs using these and that, or dental elastics. But I mean, this is way cheaper, and they're different colored, so they stand up well, and that on your bobber and that sort of thing like that, your little float. So if you take, as for instance, these ones here, these are cocktail sort of ones, right? They have a wooden, nice little floating heart that, because it's not very wide, it's not a lot of pressure under the water. So it's very visible, yet isn't going to cause piles of resistance. And all you got to do is slide one of these elastics on your line, and then put it onto there, and then wrap more of the elastic in circles around it till it gets a firm fit, and you should be able to pull the line through the elastic and adjust it correctly. And then when you're fighting the fish, you can push it down in that to get it closer to you. If you have a long European rod, you'll see me do this on some of them and that sort of thing like that. So, but anyways, that's what I was trying to explain to you before I got the pictures here now. So this give you an idea, but a way better. You're not needed to buy like floats ever, right? Like, I mean, you could even, like I said, use an old branch that's around. Just make a shape that isn't much, wider than, a couple of shish kebab floats at the most. There's rare occasions where I've used bigger ones and things like that. And I'll explain that reasons in other shows. But anyways, this is all you need for basic things. Also, a floating silly putty works great as well, or any kind of knockoff, that sort of thing like that. There's a glowing one, you can make it glow and that sort of thing like that. So, any of these kinds of things will work, and you'll have enough floats for centuries to come, right? And then like, sadly with these slip bobbers, you are using the plastic here, so hopefully you won't lose too many floats with them and that sort of thing like that. But I don't have any wooden ones that I've ever found that you can do this. Now, what I have done though is made my own by simply taking like a crane or a barrel swivel, any of those, and the eyelids on them, right? You just snip it up near the top with some kind of wire cutter, right? And then wrap a sewing thread down at the bottom part of it to make a slip like float, right? So I do it that way, right, with these kinds here, and that will work as well, right? But you got to make sure you don't use an oversized one, because now I have even used them sometimes for this purpose, to make that float not really even float, just sit there almost neutral buoyancy, right? So I can watch just the tiniest little twitch and things like that. But these are different, more high advanced sort of tactics we'll cover other times, right? And that sort of thing. But this is all you basically need. Any kinds of ones like that. Also, those barbecue skewers, if you need some are bigger, then you need to cast a little bit more weight to it and that sort of thing like that, further distance, what have you. And there's other ones you can use, right? So you just have to make sure that the hole will fit firmly around it in that, or you could always like super glue the thing in there or stuff ones like that, right? So, but anyways, we'll continue on. So we're into another one here. It's the second day, and it's cool in the morning here. And I'm testing with the GW rod here, and a bait runner like reel that was from oh my goodness, what's the name of that company? AliExpress. That I paid 20 some bucks for, but it was busted when it sent to me, and I messed with the handle and was able to fix it. So that sort of thing like that. But it finally died out on me. But I have a few bait runner like reels, sort of thing like that, to test for the show and that sort of thing like that. But this is an older one, right? That I got. The sort of thing like that. So there was bad recording on this sort of thing like that. So, anyways, here's another one here. It's hard to do these sort of ones like that. But anyways, we'll get them here in a second and that. And I had some tourists asking me if they eat them, right? I told them that, they'll grow an extra head if they eat anything out of here, right? So, but anyways, like, well, but I always bring like a knapsack and extra sort of clothes and different things, and a pair of sandals. I'll go right through them walking. Like, I'll get these $5, because even if I get a $50 one, I'm gonna walk it right off in no time. I must be a heavy walker or something. So, anyways, we'll let her go. Stay tuned. So we're into another one here. Now the debris pushing back in. It goes like hour to hour around. It's absolutely weird sometimes, but a lot of fun. At least a fair amount of fish have shown up in the pond, and I got my different knapsacks and different things ready. Because when I bring it into the other pond, I do a little bit of fly fishing and some different things, and show you like a tripod and some other stuff. But there are a lot of fun scrappers here in these little ponds and that sort of thing like that. So, and there's ponds like this all over North America that may have carp in them, or grass carp, or sometimes buffalo fish and other weird stuff, right? Like any kind of course, like fish suckers, ones like that, catfish, of course. All of them could be quite fun in these little ponds, right? And some ponds have other sorts of monster fish in them, from giant largemouth in some of them to even pits that have giant smallmouth in them. When I was in Pennsylvania, I got one with an old Lindy rig and a blown up crawler, and it was like 7 pounds, 3 ounces, a real giant, right? I got it on a early sort of fishing facts like sort of technique, right? And bouncing crawlers and stuff like that with slip sinkers and these kinds of ones, right? And I've used that in a lot of different pits and ponds and stuff like that on spooky fish, right? And they work really well. Just a really tiny little hook and you know, a big fat juicy collar, blow up air in it, and then just get it down there and wiggle it around. They nail it, right? And real ones that wouldn't, because then the big monster would come up and take a sniff at it. It's juicy and everything, right? Like, and then they take a shot at it. But a normal lure go by them, they'd scoop from it, right? You know, sort of thing like that. So there's another one, anyways. So we'll have to, again. It just takes too long, because then sometimes I have to hand line them for 2 3 minutes where I'm trying to grab their little mouths because they're smaller. Bigger carp are actually easier for me to get my. I call it the Vulcan carp death grip. I get my thumb in there, and there's a certain little lodgy spot underneath that they have that rises up that you can, you know, nail in there and sort of get a Vulcan death grip on him and hoist up even a monster, but to a certain point, right? And that sort of thing like that. So, anyways, we'll let the Scooby go here. So, stay tuned. One that I was testing through different shows its past. I've used it everything from casting jigs to just about everything except feeder fishing much with it, right? And that sort of thing like that. It has 3 different tips. I don't see any much difference, but be careful with these kinds of rods. It's easy for them to come loose in the different sections. So check them constantly, right? That, and if you don't see the line guides all perfectly lined up, adjust it and make sure that it's tight in there, and do this fairly frequently and that sort of thing like that. But it comes with 3 tips, so it was quite inexpensive, and it's past sort of thing, no problem. The other one that I was using is this Skamali little spinning rod. It's that I wish they made one a little bit faster, stiffer action, and about another 1.5 to 2 feet longer, right? And then they'd have even a more beautiful sort of spinning rod. But this one's a lot of fun for. I've slayed everything from giant bass with it so far to carp and different sorts of ones, right? Big walleyes and that. So it's past. It's a little bit on the noodly side for certain applications, but I mean, a great smallmouth little spinning rod and all that sort of stuff like that, or small stream areas and that, or somebody crazy like me that likes challenges with, this little tiny ultralight sort of stuff going on, right? So that sort of thing like that. And we cover again here. This to want to make sure I get this in here. This guy here. This is a Houghton. I've mentioned this reel. It's slayed already some monster carp to big bass, all kinds of stuff like that. I used it with feeder rods, a carp like typical European carp rod, and all kinds of different ones. A lot of these cheaper models, the handles will slide right off. They're not soldered inside, but this one is. And I haven't had any problems with the Houghtons so far of any of the models that I've used, from their big casters to spinning. It's all passed so far. So good stuff for a change, because some of them no, right, and that sort of thing like that. But anyways, these are some of the ones I keep. The problem is a lot of these reels, they give them no name, and they look the same. So it could be like Sue Gayling looked like a Proberis one or whatever, right? Like these different. So I can't even remember which one it was sometimes, and I have to really investigate it well to even figure this out, right? Because they don't want you to know the name, like hoping you'll forget how junky it was the previous year, right? And buy another one. They just change the color and the little look of it here and there, right? And that sort of thing. But anyways, all these have passed so far, and that sort of thing like that. And any of the monofilaments to fluorocarbons that I've used so far have all passed the Jackfish one. That's the main one that I was using. I've quite a few. I wouldn't say it's as good as Trilene, let's say, or one of those, right? But I haven't had any break offs. It it does its job, right? You might have to change it a little bit quicker, but you get like a big amount for pretty cheap, right? So, anyways, those were the ones that we were testing here so far, and I'll mention a bunch of other ones. There's Proberis. I got my a Darth Vader sort of lightsaber rod there. Who's the boss? A great rod from everything I've tested it with so far, and different ones. And I'll show you pictures of them. Make sure you get the right models and that sort of thing. So stay tuned. From that pond to another pond and do a little bit of fly fishing. I'll show you a tripod and different all kinds of things like that. So synopsis, everything we tested from the Sugaling rod. I can't still find that film. What happened was is the first um, fish was not the first or second day. Anyway, one of the 2 days, one of the first fish the camera I thought it was like pointing direct, but actually you got to watch these things. They have this pivot on it, and they can move, and so you might have it on the position that you thought was correct, but then all of a sudden something might bump it and then push it up, right? So. I had the film of me fighting with the Sugaling feeder rod, but all you see is mostly the rod tip and that sort of thing like that. So some of the films got there's some others that, and I'll continue them on. We got some bigger ones mixed in and the different ones. But on the next one there, I'll be covering a couple other sort of things like that. Drop back bite indicators. I'll do a whole show on different kinds of bite indicators and things like that, and that sort of thing like that. So, but that was everything we tested passed. The hooks, everything of the different varieties and that sort of thing. And I showed you here what I was using and that sort of thing like that. So, anyways, we'll continue on with the next show. And again, this has been I Wear the Magic Ring, a King Solomon production. So, again, if you're Jewish, Islamic, or any of these, it has nothing to do with these sort of things. I'm not any of these things. I'm simply a guy who likes uh, ancient history and magic items. I find it entertaining. So whether or not it has any supernatural powers, we'll leave that up, for you to decide. So keep our waters clean. Our cute mermaids are gonna turn green and that sort of thing, and our poor dragon buddies that are lost in the different waters around the world. They're still reported. And that sort of thing like that. So, anyways, click like and subscribe, and hope you have a great day.